Good afternoon. Thank you for taking a few moments with me in the Word today. What are you saying about yourself? You know, when we look at Genesis chapter 1 and the Lord, He looks at the world, which is in total chaos. And what does He say? He says, light be. He didn't talk about the chaos and the darkness. He called what He wanted it to be, and that was to be light, light be. He gives us this example all throughout the Word. You know, He told us death and life is in the power of our tongue. He gave us the power of words. It's a part of how He created us in His image and in His likeness, is giving us the power of words, and for us to be able to use our will on how we use our words. We look at Abraham, and before he was called Abraham, he was called Abram. But the Lord had made a promise that he would have a son, and not just have a son, but there would be generations that will come from him, that he would have many children. But yet he was unable to have children. Sarah was barren. So God said, I'm going to call you a new name. I'm going to call you Abraham, which means a father of many nations. Now, how ridiculous that seemed amongst his neighbors, that Sarah would call him Abraham when he had no son at all, and naturally speaking, no promise of a son. But yet he called those things that be not as though they were by calling himself Abraham. Again, we look at Joseph. Joseph had a promise of God that he would be ruling and reigning, and yet he was in the pit. He was in the prison. He was enslaved. But God made sure that he was named Joseph, and Joseph means to increase. And each place that Joseph was placed, he was increased until he was ruling all of Egypt. You have Gideon. God on purpose made sure Gideon was called Gideon. Now he was hiding behind the winepress, afraid. And the angel showed up, and the angel called him a mighty man of God. Well, if you look at the name Gideon, Gideon means warrior. So in spite of what it looked like, in spite of what Gideon looked like, in spite of what his reaction was to the opposition around him, Gideon was calling himself and being called a warrior. And what was the result? He rose up as a warrior, and he won that battle. He led in that battle. And then we have Peter. Oh my goodness, Peter was a coward. He denied Christ 3 times, said that he didn't know him, even cussed about it. He was a coward. But before that happened, Jesus, knowing what was going to happen, Jesus told him, he says, I call you Peter, a rock. In other words, you're not going to be weak. You're going to be strong as a rock. So what are you calling yourself? What are you saying? You know, if you're a born-again child of God, he says, according to 2 Corinthians 5:21, that you are the righteousness of God in Christ Jesus. So don't call yourself worthless. Don't call yourself anything other than what God calls you. It says in the Word that by the stripes of Jesus you were, past tense, were healed. And so call yourself the healed. What are you saying about yourself? Pay attention to your words. Don't call yourself what you are. Call yourself what God says you are, and watch things begin to turn around. I love you, and I look forward to being with you the next time.